find yourself yelling things like, "That's enough. Why are you being so difficult? How dare you?" Before you've even had the chance to think about the best response when your child has said or done something that really presses your buttons, then you're going to get so much value from this today's episode. Say this instead: 5 powerful responses when your child melts down, talks back, or refuses to listen. But first, as a parent, you know it's important to have clear boundaries, but you also want to be caring and compassionate, right? Well, I'm Camilla McGill, and as a seasoned parenting coach and mum of 4, I'm excited to give you the principles, tools, and inspiration you need to raise amazing kids. Welcome to Raising Kids with Love and Boundaries. Well, whilst being a parent can be so rewarding and fulfilling, I want to be real here. It's also full of emotional landmines. We can get so triggered by the meltdowns, the power struggles, the rudeness, the back chat, and it just wants to make us scream. We feel taken for granted, and we're actually terrified that we're in danger of raising a vile brat of a child. And when we're tired or we're overwhelmed, it's so easy to go into command mode or guilt mode. But what my clients say they find so helpful, and believe me, I tested all these things out on my own 4 kids, is that having a few simple phrases to draw on, scripts that help us take a breath and respond with calm and confidence, even when our kids are pushing our buttons, is just so helpful. So today I'm sharing 5 powerful scripts for those stressful moments when we so often feel lost for words, when we just don't know what to say to ourselves, let alone what we say to our kids. Plus, I'm going to be answering a listener's question. What do I do when my child says, "I'm not going to bed. You can't make me"? So make sure you listen on to the end, because I'm going to be covering that question at the end. But I just wanted to kick off with a personal story. My daughters were 3 and 5 at the time, and my parents had bought them these 2 beautiful American Girl dolls. They were twin dolls with lovely shiny hair, and I left them playing. I popped into the kitchen and I came back 5 minutes later, and I found that my 5-year-old had hacked at one of the doll's hair, and her sister was crying. I laugh about it now, but it was just so upsetting at the time. I felt so angry. And what I wanted to say was, "You're so naughty. You ruined your doll. Why would you do that? Now your sister's crying. Right, I'm taking your doll away from you." But I paused and I took a breath. And I reminded myself, kids are impulsive. They're also curious. And they don't yet have the skills to anticipate consequences. They just do things without thinking. So instead, and listen, I'm no angel of a parent. I've done all the wrong things. But in this instance, I want to tell you what I said. So I said very gently, "Oh, you've been busy with your doll. What's the reason that you cut her hair?" And she replied, "I just wanted to cut a bit. I wanted us to have a girl doll and a boy doll. So I made Alice's doll a boy, but I couldn't get it straight, and then I just kept cutting and cutting." And then she was really tearful. Look, it made perfect sense for her. She was logical and impulsive, but the damage was done. So all I said was, next time you want to do something like that, what do you think you should do? Really great to ask our kids questions rather than just keep telling them why they've done something wrong or what they should have done. And she replied that she should come and ask me. And it just reminded me, thinking back on that moment, of how much power we hold in the way we respond. If we use shame, punishment, threats, and we get angry in moments like this, our kids shut down. They get defensive. And in future, they hide their mistakes or they try to blame others. She could have easily blamed her sister when I confronted her, but I think it was in the way I said it that allowed her to take responsibility and realize she'd made a mistake. So I want to give you script number 1 for the meltdown moment. Now, some meltdowns are relatively easy to handle, but others can feel excruciating. So I picked one that's excruciating. You're in the supermarket and your 4-year-old spots a toy or a chocolate and starts shouting, I want it now. If you've got a child that's older than 4-year-old, I'm sure you can think of an example of a meltdown they've had over something that they wanted. Now, if we say no and they fall apart, full on tantrum, lying on the floor, everyone around us staring and maybe tutting as well, we feel so embarrassed. Our inner voice might say, just buy the thing and get the hell out of here. Anything to avoid a scene. But I just want to remind you that it really isn't healthy for our child if we do that, because then they know what they feel is that we're so scared of their emotions that we just do what they've asked for. And that's not healthy for them. But what if we could do this? What if we could take a breath and tell ourselves, care about the bystanders and get down to their level, maybe even before the screaming starts, if we can get there quickly and respond with, you really want those chocolates, don't you? It's so hard when we can't have what we want. And I'm not buying chocolates today. So this names a feeling without changing the boundary. And when our kids feel emotionally understood, often their intensity drops because it might even take a minute, but the intensity drops because they feel understood. So they feel seen. That's why it works. We're not trying to fix it. We're not rescuing. We're not giving in. We're not even over explaining why we're not going to buy the chocolates. But they feel validated, and it will often de-escalate the storm. Now, what if they keep on screaming? I'm fully aware that it doesn't always have the impact that we want it to first off. What I would say is just do our best to stay calm. Repeat the script gently and let our body language match our words. If we can stay calm with a soft face and a soft tone and hold the limit, it builds our child's tolerance for disappointment. And it shows them that their big feelings don't scare us. So there may be circumstances where you might need other tools and solutions, but it's really worth giving this a try. And also just remember, hit subscribe and follow so that you're going to get alerted to future episodes. And I'll tell you in a minute how you could actually get more help from me. But I want to come on to script number 2 about this power struggle over clothes. Now, we've so often had this. Trying to get our child dressed for school. They're lying on the floor in their pants, refusing to budge. You've already asked 3 times and you're starting to feel that rising panic that you're going to be late again. Now, here's the natural reaction is that we jump in with a threat. That's it. No TV later if you don't get dressed now, or I'm leaving without you. But I'd like you to try this instead. Going to school feels hard. I bet you'd prefer to stay here playing. And then we might introduce some humor. I'm going to put these trousers on myself. Or we might break it down. Which do you want to put on first, your trousers or your top? Again, this shows empathy. And it also gives them a little bit of autonomy with a clear boundary if we're giving them the choice of which they're going to put on first. The demand's the same, but they somehow feel a little bit of control over how it happens. And that can often reduce resistance, especially when children are a bit younger. What if they say neither? So we might come back with, well, or they might say, I'm not going to put on either of those things. We might come back with, well, that's a funny answer. And that's not one of the choices. Which do you want, trousers or top? And again, if we can stay calm and repeat gently without sarcasm, without edge, and without threats, they are more likely to listen. If things are really stuck, we might lighten the mood. Your trousers are going to crawl up your legs like a sneaky snake, and just adding a tiny bit of playful energy. Again, I know how hard this is, but if we can think about the result that we want, which is to get our kid into their clothes without having to use threats, it just maintains that closeness, and it really does help their willingness to want to please us. But you might be thinking, Camilla, you haven't met my child. We can have a 30-minute standoff over this. I get that this script doesn't solve it all, which is why I'd love to offer you a free discovery call so that I can hear about your unique situation and I can tell you about the packages that I have to work privately with parents. just go to myparentingsolutions.com/chat or have a look below. There's the show notes, and then you can book your discovery call. But next up is script number 3, back chat or name calling. So you say no to a snack and they shout, "You're so dumb and stupid." Oh my goodness, this can trigger us. But remember, when we're triggered and when we come in with anger, it's like putting petrol on a fire. It doesn't put us in a position of calm authority, which is what we want. This is what our natural reaction is when our child has been rude like that. "How dare you speak to me like that? I'd never spoken to my mother like that." Or, "Right, that's it. No more treats today." But as always, I want you to take a breath and try this instead. "Wow, you're really angry with me. Those words tell me that you're having some big feelings." Or, "Huh, I didn't like hearing that. I think you're trying to show me how upset you feel by telling me that you hate me." Now, this is why it works. It reflects their emotions so they feel understood. I've said that many times, but it's always worth reminding. It names the behavior without shaming, and it keeps the door open for reconnection once that storm has passed. We're also helping our child build emotional awareness without the escalation or the threats or the punishment. But they might double down and shout more. Again, we've got to stay grounded, and we could say, "It's okay to feel angry. I'm going to give you a moment to cool off and then we can talk." Or, "I'm here when you're ready to speak to me again," in a polite tone of voice. So we're modeling that calm under pressure, and we're showing them that, we can still weather that storm. We understand that there are times when it feels like we hate each other, but again, without the blame or the power struggles. So if this is useful, just make sure that you look at the show notes and you can book that discovery call with me. And there are other resources in the show notes. I'm coming on now to script number 4, the flat out refusal. So here's the scenario. You've just told your child it's time to leave the park or the soft play, and they shout no, and they might lie on the floor or bolt in the other direction. And again, we might well feel that every pair of eyes is on us, or we might be in a rush to leave. And our natural reaction could be, "Right, that's it, we're never coming back." Or we might blame, "Why are you making this so difficult? Why are you being so naughty?" Try this instead. Leaving feels so hard when you've really been having fun. I know it's really sad to stop when you don't feel ready. I'm going to help you get ready to go. Because it works because we're naming how they feel. We're offering empathy and we're following through without needing the battle. And then they don't feel so overpowered. It makes those transitions less emotionally charged over time. Now, I'm also aware that they might still resist or run off. Who said parenting was easy? So we could try bringing in a playful choice or a small sense of control. Shall we stop like dinosaurs or tiptoe like spies to the gate? Do you want to hold my hand or ride on my back like a backpack? Now, again, if they run off, I don't recommend that you dive in and grab them. Sometimes by just standing still and saying very little, we do notice that they come back. Sometimes the drama of us ramping up and shouting actually causes them to run off further. But we might say something like, "I'm going to help your body now." And we might carry them as gently as we can to the door if we've been able to catch them. Script number 5 is actually about us. It's about the internal reset. So we're going to all have these moments. We snap. We say something we regret, and then we feel that wave of guilt. The doubts start creeping in. This isn't working. Maybe I'm being too soft. Maybe I've messed it all up. Maybe she needs a punishment. It's a really common spiral, especially when we're trying to parent with more patience and presence. And this is what we might say to ourselves instead. Okay, breathe. Gentle doesn't mean I need to give in. I can be kind and still hold my boundary. I don't have to get this perfect. One step, one moment at a time. This really helps us because the simple pause reminds us that our job isn't to be flawless. It is to be present and steady. And our children honestly don't need perfect parents. They just need the real ones. And if the guilt lingers on, just say to yourself, I can always reconnect. I can repair. That was one difficult moment, but it isn't the whole picture. So really hope that helps. But don't go away, because I want to come on now to that parent who wrote in saying, what do I do when my child says, I'm not going to bed and you can't make me? Oh my God, we've all been there. At the end of the day, everyone's tired and the power struggle kicks in. But here's what I recommend. First, think prevention. So before the resistance starts, try to create a predictable routine and then give them the heads up. And you might ask something like, what do you think it's time for now? Having paused the screen or having had an agreement of when the screen goes off. Because this invites them to use their brain, their thinking process, rather than us issuing the command. Now, you might have reached the standoff. And again, I would use connection and playfulness and curiosity. So some playfulness might be, I'm definitely not going to tickle you. And you said with a kind of wink as you come after them. And then maybe a little bit of distraction. Wait, I forgot your favorite ice cream flavor. Was it bubblegum? We might add the empathy. Going feels boring when you're still having fun, doesn't it? So these responses will lower their defensiveness and they'll help you stay in charge without getting into a head-to-head. Again, I know this isn't everything. This isn't the only way of solving these kind of challenges, but I really hope they help. So 5 powerful scripts, including a gentle reset for us, that are going to prioritize our connection over us being the dictator, the sergeant major, slipping into these threats and threatening things like punishment. So I'd just like to reiterate, you just go to myparentingsolutions.com/chat if you'd like to talk to me personally in a free discovery call. And please, if this episode helped, do share it with a friend, leave a review, or come and find me on Instagram at My Parenting Solutions, because I've got a lot of free stuff there. I'd really love to help you. And do send me a DM and tell me which script that you found the most helpful. And you can see them written out below in the transcription of this podcast episode. So until next time, remember, you don't need to get it perfect. One step, one moment at a time. And thank you for joining me, Camilla McGill, on raising kids with love and boundaries.